Happy Sunday, and welcome to another episode of Cosmic Besties. I'm Kelly, and I'm here with Cristy. And today we're really excited to talk to you about one of our favorite topics, and that is the topic of intuition. And you may be asking, what exactly is intuition? Or maybe you already know. But I like to think of intuition as being a little bit of your sixth sense. It's sort of this inner knowing where you combine perhaps stuff that you're picking up with your different senses, with wisdom and experience that you have, along with the things that you just know that are unseen. But Christy, what would you say if you were asked to define intuition right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's your inner knowing, it's your inner guidance system. And I think that there's a big misconception between um, your intuition and feeling like it's something that you need to work on. Your intuition is your birthright. Everybody is born with their own intuitive guidance system. And it's just learning how to tap into that and kind of bring it back online. I feel like we've been conditioned to silence our intuition for so long that that's when it becomes dormant. But there are ways and there are things that you can do to strengthen it and also to just kind of snap that third eye open and begin to really tap into your intuition. But it's trusting that inner voice inside of you that knows what's best for you because it really does.
Yeah, I might even say it's like an instinct, right? It's like you
Mhm.
just know it and you're not sure how you know it, but you know it.
Yeah. So your third eye is directly connected to your sacral. And so when people say like, "Oh, I just had like a gut feeling," that's true. Like that's your sacral kicking in. That's your intuition. Your intuition lives in those two parts of your body. So, I definitely feel like it's kind of like your instinct.
That's really cool. And I feel like one of the reasons why we don't trust it is from the time we're little on, we're sort of raised to use reasoning or think through things in a logical way. Um, and I think that's hard because that's not how all brains work. I can like distinctly remember being in math class as a kid, and I would fly through an exam, like think third grade, right? So not an intense exam or test, but I'd fly through it and I would have all my answers. But I didn't show my work. I just knew what the answers were. But the whole
Yeah.
point, I guess, was supposed to show your work. So then my teacher had to talk to me about going back and showing my answers. And I was very confused as a kid at first because it was like, why? I already know the answer.
Yeah.
And I
We're
think
con-
I was
oh,
just gonna say, those are the things that like shut us down early on.
Yeah, like that's what we're conditioned to kind of silence that inner knowing, that inner voice. Um, I don't know if like any of you, and to me, like there's a difference between your intuition and then like your human side. So I believe that there are two parts to every soul. So you have like this human side, which is your ego, your personality, the roles that you play in this life. It's conditioning, it's stories, programs, kind of like what you're talking about with having to show your work. And then you have this divine side, which is your soul, and that's your intuition and your divine wisdom. And I think that sometimes it's easy to get them confused, but like a little trick that I always use when I'm trying to differentiate between is this my intuition or is this just like my brain kicking in is your intuition isn't going to feel fearful. So I don't know if you've ever like been sick and then you go and you google and you get all of these like different possible symptoms and then you start like having anxiety. If you were to sit quietly with yourself and really tap into your intuition, you wouldn't feel that panicky energy that you feel when it's fear versus your own intuition.
Yeah, that is such a good point. Um, I also believe that. I feel like sometimes when we're leveraging our intuition, we're actually just tapping into our full self. So it's the part of us that's here incarnating as a human, but also the part of us, the soul part of us that's like our higher self that's
Mhm.
kind of in the ether still or in the place beyond whatever your belief system is.
I love that idea of like when you're tapping into your intuition, it's your whole self because it's true. Like it's almost like that your true essence is like coming online so that you're able to see clearly instead of having like those kind of it's like we all have like glasses on and then when you take them off, that's your intuition.
Yeah.
Uh that's a really beautiful way to look at it too, like wholeness.
Did you find yourself like drawn to magic as a kid?
No, but I was like drawn to psychics. Like I think I went to my first psychic when I was like in third grade.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I was interested in psychics and anything mystical, but also magic. I loved going to like see people do magic. And I remember coming home from like I don't know where we were, maybe a carnival where there was like a magic show. And then asking to go get like magic books. And so then there was like different tricks you could learn, but there was one that was my favorite and it absolutely did not leverage any magic whatsoever. It was literally just like, putting a coin or something in your hand and asking people to guess which hand it was in. And you
Yeah.
could mix it up or you'd stick it behind your back. And little do we know, like as children, we're actually practicing our intuition at that point, right? Because or the ball underneath the cup. You move it all around and you're asking where is it? Where is it? And I was often right. And we don't think about it at the time, but that is leveraging your intuition.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting to bring up kids. Like I know with my own, like kids are so open to that. Like I have this little like ESP trainer on my phone that I use from time to time just to like strengthen my own intuition. And when my two youngest play it, they like will get almost all of the questions correct, which is crazy. And I wonder if it's like I know if you ever watch like children when they make a decision, like they're not asking like everybody for an opinion. They just like if they want hot dogs that day, like they want hot dogs. Like they know. They're so good about knowing exactly what they want and being able to kind of have those blinders up. So I think when we people are asking us like how can I tap into my intuition, like the very first thing you got to do is separate yourself from others and get used to checking in with yourself and being like, is this something that I truly believe in or that I truly want? Because um that's like the number one step to kind of realizing the difference between like your intuition and like your mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is so right. And it's all about being present. I think as adults, our problem is that we're so busy either ruminating on the past or worrying or planning about the future that we're not often spending enough time in the present. And that's where you can really get those intuitive hits and
Yeah.
like be able to leverage that other part of you.
Yeah, and we did a couple of like exercises during our retreat and it was really cool because these girls were just like normal girls and they really were able to get some really incredible like intuitive psychic downloads based off of just opening up their hearts to the idea that intuition lives within inside them. And that was really cool to see.
It was. And I think one of the one of the hard parts as you're first like starting to practice intuition is if you mess something up, those little inner voices, those saboteurs, those gremlins, whatever, the negative self-talk in our head, it's
Mhm.
going to start criticizing you. But any hit is a hit. So if I were to, ask someone, what do I have in my hand? Even if they only get one thing right, if they say five things and one thing is right, that's still a hit. And the more that you practice your intuition, just like working out at the gym, the easier it's going to get.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that too. Can you think of any time where like your intuition was like completely on point? Like, I'm sure you have many examples, but just like one that comes to mind where you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm so glad I listened to my gut feeling.
Yeah. So, I hope this might be a little bit of a trigger warning for you, but there was a time where I was at a park with my cousins and some of my cousins were playing soccer. And so me and my other cousin were swinging on the swing set. And there was a gentleman who asked my cousin to help him find his dog. And my like everything in my body was like, this person is not good. This person is not good. He seemed very nice. My cousin, I think, was almost ready to like go help find the dog, but I grabbed her hand and I said, no, we need to walk away. And a few days later, I think he was, being caught for like enticement. So
Oh my
this
gosh.
so it was really interesting. And so like call that intuition, call it your gut feeling, whatever. That was like a really powerful moment for me where I knew that like listening to my gut was never going to lead me wrong. But I can remember distinctly where like I would get those new intuitive hits on a really small scale, like growing up in the 80s, everyone had a landline, right? And so how
Mhm.
many of you, if you were in that growing up in that era, would try to guess who was calling before you picked up the phone? I would often guess who was calling, and sometimes I would be able to even share more information. And I remember one time predicting that my grandpa was calling, and he lived in Nevada at the time. And I was like, "Oh, grandpa's calling. He's gonna come visit." And sure enough, my mom picked up the phone, and it was him, and he was talking about coming to visit.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
What about you?
Um, Well, I mean, there's lots of different ones I can think of, but one of the things that you brought up that I think is important to kind of like touch on is you said that everything in your body felt this way. So I think with intuition, like a lot of times people, assume it's like in the movies where you just have like a vision. And it is that way for some people. When I'm with my clients, I use my clairvoyance. So it is like watching a movie in front of me,
Mhm.
but not everyone is that way. So like you were using your clairsentience, like that initial feeling, those alarm bells that were going off in your body. So there's different ways that intuition speaks to you. It's not just like through vision. So I love that you brought that up because I think that's important for people to understand that there's not just one way that your intuition is going to speak to you.
Yeah, and I think we actually see this play out during like visualizations or meditations.
Mhm.
Some people are really good at like actually visualizing something during the meditation, whereas I tell other people who maybe haven't done meditations or visualizations before, you might not see anything. It might be black, but you might have words that pop into your head, or you might
Mhm.
have feelings that you feel, or you might hear things. But everyone has their own kind of flavor of intuition, and you don't necessarily have to visualize in a visual way. And I know that sounds really like counterintuitive, but
No, but it's true. And I think if you think back to how like you learned the best like growing up, to me like there's a connection between the type of learner you are and the type of intuition that's going to be the strongest inside of you because everybody has all of the different clairs. It's just that some are able to be I guess easier to like turn on or tap into. So if you're somebody who was like an auditory learner, you learned best like through listening to the teacher. I would put money on it that you're probably like clairaudient. So meaning that when you are looking for or when you were trying to tap into your intuition, try and listen and see if you hear voices or if you um, get any hits through like your auditory processes.
yeah.
Uh, but I guess about like one of like a I don't know. Like I've always been intuitive and I've been really good about like kind of following my intuition. I think every person probably goes through a period in life when you kind of like become dormant and turn it off. But I would say like it's always been really strong with my kids.
Mm.
Um, I remember when actually there's three moments that I can think of, but I'll just talk about one. So Tate was not feeling well. So Tate is my middle. And he is like the perfect middle child. Like he never complains, but he kept saying that like he didn't feel good, that his stomach was hurting. And he didn't have a fever, like there weren't any other symptoms. My husband was like, "Oh, he's fine." And just something inside of me felt off. And I just kept hearing like take him to the ER, take him to the ER. So I did, and I'm glad I did because while we were there, again, like everyone was telling me, just like my husband, like, oh, like he's fine, like he's healthy, he's a healthy little boy, like it's just probably indigestion. And I was like, no, something is not right. Like, take his blood, do an ultrasound. Like, I think it's his appendix. Like, I just had this gut feeling. And I remember the nurse kind of gave me a hard time and was like a little huffy. And so finally, like a doctor came in and he listened to me and he was like, okay, let's take his blood and see what's going on. And almost, I would say, like within the hour, he came back in and they were rushing him to the emergency room because, or to the like OR because he was having appendicitis. Um, so if I hadn't listened to kind of that mom gut, then
Mhm.
who knows what would have happened? It could have maybe burst, but because I was really in tune with my intuition and I knew something was wrong and I knew I kept hearing like the word appendix, I pushed for them to take his blood and I pushed for them to do an ultrasound so that um, we could figure out what was going on. So that's kind of like, I guess, like listening to your gut instinct there. And I bet there's so many moms out there who have had like similar experiences.
Yeah.
Your mom gut is never wrong. Like that's why I always tell like new moms. I'm like, your mom gut is never wrong.
Yeah, and I think actually from an evolutionary perspective, like that exists so that we can protect our offspring. It's like you're now leveraging beyond your core five senses so that you can make sure that like your kids are safe.
Yeah, definitely. And it's happened with like my youngest one too, with similar stories where I just know something's wrong and like the doctor or whomever tells me like, oh no, he's fine. And then we found out later, oh no, like they're not fine. So if you are having that feeling, trust it. Like to me, there's a difference between like just being overreactive or being like overly anxious and having like an intuitive download. And if it's something that like you have this feeling that cannot leave you, I would get curious about it and try and figure out why that's happening.
I love that. Okay, so let's switch gears. Let's recap all of the different I guess, forms of intuition, because I think that'll be a nice little teaser for some of our future episodes. And then
Hmm.
we can give folks our favorite tips for little mini intuition practices they can do regularly. So I'll go first with one of them. Christy already mentioned this, clairaudience. This is the um using your sound, right? So that's the hearing music, hearing people speak, or that sort of thing. That's how you're getting that intuitive hit. And that's one of my strongest. So I often hear songs. What's what one do you want to call it next?
Let's say so claircognizant, which I think probably a lot of people are, that is you just know. So I don't know if you've ever walked down the street and then been like, oh, I should not turn that corner. You don't know why. It's just all of a sudden you have like this kind of channel download that you shouldn't turn that corner. That's your claircognizant. So it's just like an inner knowing.
Then there's also clairsentience, which Christy mentioned earlier too, and that's that feeling. So you feel stuff in your body. This is like if you were sitting on a plane next to a person and all of a sudden you just feel this overwhelming feeling of sadness, but you were fine 2 minutes before. Like that is probably not you. That is probably actually your clairsentience picking up on something.
Yeah, or I feel like goosebumps are a big one for people too, where you walk into a space and you feel goosebumps. Get curious about that. Like why is your body reacting that way? Then there's clairvoyance. So that is the seer. That's kind of like what you think of when you think of like a traditional psychic. Even though like I feel like most psychics use like an array of different ways of harnessing their intuition, but I feel like the traditional like psychic portrayed in movies is the clairvoyant, where they're seeing images in their mind or they're seeing actual like energy. For me, that is my strongest clair. But it's interesting when I'm using it, like it's not necessarily that I'm seeing like a ghost or whatever, like quote unquote ghost, like in front of me. To me, when I'm tapping into my clairvoyance, it almost looks like you're on a move, like you're watching a movie or you're on a train and you're watching like scenes go by. So clairvoyance can be different for everybody. It could be that maybe you're able to see energies or spirits, or it could be like me, where you're just seeing images in your mind.
There's also one that I learned the name of recently, but it definitely is something that pops into my world every now and then. I believe it's called Clear Aliens, and it is the smells that pop up. And so, at certain times of the year, one of my grandfathers who's passed will visit, and if I'm not like being totally present and I guess not picking up on his energy in other ways, there will be a distinct smell of smoke, like cigarette smoke, like you'd smell in a bar in my home. And nobody smokes in my home.
Yeah.
So it's not like it could be coming from somewhere, but I didn't realize that it actually had a name until recently.
Yeah, that has happened to me before too. My actually it happens to my mom a lot. She'll smell like her dad's aftershave, or her mom would smoke and drink coffee like in the morning. That was like, like a memory for my mom. And
Hmm.
every once in a while she'll smell like coffee and cigarette smoke. So yeah, that's kind of a cool one too.
Did we hit on all of them? I think we did.
Think, yeah, clairaudient, clairsentient, claircognizant, clairvoyant, and now the clair, what is it? Alien?
Aliens.
Aliens. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So five.
So, we want you all to be sure to listen to the next few episodes because we're going to deep dive into our experiences with each of those different clairs and maybe even give you some tips to practice those specifically. But generally, if you just want to practice intuition, there are some really easy ways you can do that. Chrissy, you want to play a game?
Yeah.
Okay. So I am going to grab a crystal and it is in my hands and I am feeling it and I'm going to close my eyes and just really connect to its energy. And I want you to try to use your intuition to tap into it and, just say whatever comes to mind. And if you get at least one hit, that's showing us that intuition is correct.
Okay. Seeing like almost like earth colors, like the root colors. So like a red. Um, to me it feels like very grounding. It's like a grounding energy when it comes to this crystal. Um, At first I wanted to say like adventuring, but that's green. Like this one's feeling almost like tiger's eye, maybe, like the different colors, but I'm seeing like earth tones.
You were not wrong in earth tones. Um, and you were not wrong with green. So it is gray and white and green and tan.
Oh,
So it is serpentine. And so serpentine has a lot of different benefits, but this one is good for um, uh, like if you physically have different ailments, it can help with like regulating blood sugar and detoxifying the body. Emotionally and mentally, though, it's great for just reducing stress, encouraging perspective and emotional release. But it was funny when you said, I'm seeing earth tones. I was staring at this little patch of it where it's like tan.
oh, funny. Yeah. Well, and I was seeing like multiple colors, which is why I was thinking like tiger's eye or something, because I was like seeing like the earth tones, but like there was more than one.
And if you see it, it looks a little bit like a little earth.
Oh, yeah. That's fun. I don't have a crystal because I would do the game with you too.
So, well, that's okay. We can do that maybe on one of the future episodes. We can play around
Yeah.
with some of our intuition skills.
Mhm.
But let's give everyone one homework assignment each that they can do to practice their intuition. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Sure, I can go first. maybe explaining the process that I used when we were playing this game, and then people can kind of use it for this activity. So when you're doing like partner work, which is something you can do, um, it's I like will close my eyes and I'll have the other person really concentrate on whatever it is that they're concentrating on. And then I literally will imagine like a cord between us, and that's how I'm receiving the information. So you can kind of play around with that, but like using your imagination, that's part of your third eye. And so that's really important with your intuition. So for me, like visually, it helps to kind of see a cord and then like wait for the images to come. But you could do something like the number game with a partner. So think of a number between like 1 and 15 and have your partner think of one number and then you try and tap into that. That one's really fun. I also love the three roads activity, but maybe we'll save that for when we're doing um, our like deep dives into the like different clairs because it kind of like connects to a specific one. And it's really fun to do, and I think we need more time to kind of explain it. So for me, we'll just do the number game where you're doing some partner work and you are trying to tap into them almost like telepathically to see what number they're thinking of. And you can do it with colors too.
Yeah, I love that. So a really easy one to insert into your day, if you want to play around a little, is if you're driving, this is for all the moms out there, if you're driving with your kids and like let's say you're at a stop sign and no one's there yet, you
Mhm.
each can predict what color vehicle is going to come to the stop sign next. No
Yeah.
cheating and looking down the street, but
Yeah.
you can also do that with like text messages. If you hear like a text message on your phone go off, you
Mhm.
can, before you go pick up the phone, tap into the energy and see if you can predict who it was that texted you. So those are like really easy things to do and the like in your daily tasks. But one of my favorite things to do that actually requires you to like sit down and practice with is if you have like an oracle deck or a tarot deck, you
Mhm.
can actually try to, before you pick up a card, like pick a card, but don't turn it over and just tap into the energy of the card. And before you turn it over, write down anything that comes to mind. So it could be colors, it could be images, it could be feelings you get. And your goal is to try to tap into the energy of the card. And just like if you go to the gym and work out frequently, you'll grow stronger muscles. If you do this more frequently, you'll actually start to hone your intuition.
Yeah, and I think you could even do that with like a normal deck of cards if people
Yeah.
who are watching like don't have tarot cards or an oracle deck. Just try and like maybe the first time through you are zoning in on the suit. And then the second time through, maybe you're trying to pick up a little bit more information. So maybe you do like the suit and the color, and then the third time you try and do the suit, the color, and the number. Or like if it's a king and a queen or whatever. But um I think you could do it with like just regular old playing cards too, which would be kind of fun. Or even like those memory cards that like you have if you have kids and they play that memory game, use those cards. Like whatever you have around your house, you can use it in like an intuitive way.
I love that. That's a
Yeah.
really good suggestion.
hmm I used to play that card game. So when I was growing up, we lived in San Clemente, but my grandma lived in Coronado Island, so like down by San Diego. And with traffic, it's like 2 hours. And back then, we didn't have iPads or movies in the car. So I would play that car game. And it was really fun because in like the 90s, there were so many different colors. Like I feel like nowadays it's like the cars are like black, white, or gray. But it was that was like, I don't know, it's good to have your kids kind of use their imagination and take a break from their iPads. So I love that your idea of like the stop sign waiting for the car. And maybe you can even do like maybe it's going to be a truck or an SUV.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like a color. Like you can play around with it and just have fun with it.
You could do that with people too. Like the next person that I
Mhm.
see is going to be a lady who's older, like grandma or, whatever.
Yeah, and like maybe even test yourself and be like, okay, like the third car that's coming is going to be a truck or something like that. Or the third person that um is going to be in line in front of me is going to be, a man with a baby. Just
Yep.
like kind of like play around and don't be afraid to test yourself because your intuition is stronger than you think.
Yeah. And for those of you in the car with like partners or kids, have
Hmm.
them write stuff down, have them tally it up, and, maybe even
Yeah.
have a prize for it. And you'll have them so into winning the game that they'll never be asking for screen time in the car.
Yeah. Um, and next time you have to make a decision, like even if it's just like maybe what you're going to eat for dinner that night, instead of like going through Pinterest or getting on like social media and seeing what people are eating, like really try and tap into yourself and start to begin to see how it feels when you think of certain meals and the one that feels really good for you, then like make it that week instead of like kind of going, because I feel like it's training yourself to turn inward as opposed to like go outside of yourself for information. Like the information kind of already exists inside of you, and it's just kind of having like kind of remembering that you have everything that you need already inside, and you don't need to go like outside of your body in order to get that answer.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, folks. It was so good to have you here with us today. We hope you have a ton of homework you're going to go do and try out. And if you try something, let us know how it works. Drop a comment below or shoot us an email at cosmicbesties@gmail.com. If anyone would ever like to come on an episode and share their experiences, we'd welcome that as well. So you can email us and let us know.
Yeah, that would be so fun. All right, guys. Good luck.